Hello everybody, welcome back. If you have not been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. So many that I'm also reading a brand new series. I've already uploaded the first one. This is Whitehaven Witches by TJ Green. I've finished book 3. So this is encompassing everything that's happened in books 1, 2 and 3, even though I already did one about book 1. But it just allows me to talk about a little bit more. So the books in the first 3 are Buried Magic. Book number 2 is Magic Unbound, and number 3 is Magic Unleashed. And my goodness, I enjoyed it. With all the books together, it comes to about 552 pages. I'll admit there was stuff that happened in book 1 that I was not expecting. And going into books 2 and 3, people who I thought were major players were killed off. Oh, people that I thought were going to be completely integral to it have been killed. And yeah, where to start with what's happened in these 3 books? It feels like there's been so much. It's definitely darker than I thought it was, and I thought it was going to be fairly dark considering the subject matter when it comes to witches and magic and looking at the history of the witch trials, even though it's in a fictional town. But it feels like it lends from real history in the English witch trials. You see all of our main players doing a lot of work to find these hidden grimoires, which I talked about in the other video, because they find out that their ancestors hid very powerful dark magic grimoires away from their families, and now that this information has been uncovered with the death of the elderly woman in the first book, who it seems wasn't part of a magical family but knew about the magical families, was hiding secrets for people. Yeah, I am so enjoying this. And the way it's written, it feels like it could be in the same universe as the Beaufort books, weirdly, even though it's from 2 completely different authors, but it feels like it's got a very similar vibe, because in book 2 we find out about a witches' council, and that was really giving me Beaufort vibes, and talking about like other magical families and talk about like the demon hunters and things, which at this point is kind of on the down low, but I know it exists because of the other books about the demon hunters, and they've got their friend in a police officer called Newton, who does have a family connection. Like he's one of the he's like an OG family of the town, but he's not from a magical family. They have found an ally in Newton who does not have connections to magical families, but this is a town that is supposed to be rich in its history. I mean, in the 3rd book, there's a pagan festival that is the heart of that book, because something big is going to happen at that pagan festival. And so it seems that even though a lot of Whitehaven doesn't actually believe in the magic, like they're aware of the town's history regarding the witch trials, this fictional version of Whitehaven, the town is aware of its history, and even though it seems that it's not really that pagan heavy anymore, the entire town celebrates it. And I actually find that really nice to see a community celebrating a festival, a religious festival, which not everybody is part of. It's like my mum always says that growing up they didn't like say, oh, no celebrations at school, they just celebrated everybody. So they did the Christian holidays, they celebrated Diwali, they just celebrated everything, and it was wonderful. And you see these days people are saying, oh, they say happy holidays to be inclusive, and I like happy holidays being inclusive, but there is nothing wrong with celebrating other people's religions. Like, I've always thought that Diwali just seemed like such a beautiful holiday, and so I remember there's an Indian restaurant in my town which is vegetarian, and it's delicious. Like, as somebody who is a meat eater, I love this restaurant, and to be honest, I'm at some point going to try and organise with a friend of mine to go back to that restaurant because it's beautiful. And I remember once going around the time they were celebrating Diwali, I think it was for my cousin's birthday, and so they had a set menu for Diwali, and obviously because it's like the Festival of Light, And so, yeah, the whole restaurant was so beautifully decked out, and I was just there thinking, I'm not a particularly religious person, but this just seems like a beautiful holiday. I like the idea of things being inclusive rather than trying to separate people when it comes to religion. Yeah, this has gone very far into a different direction. But the point is that in the third book, you have an entire town, an entire community of people putting away any religious differences to celebrate this pagan holiday and to understand the roots of their town. And I just thought that was a really nice way to do it. Admittedly, in the book, the holiday is being used by some mermaids to do very bad things, but the fact that the town is celebrating this, I found quite a powerful moment. Yeah, I am just really enjoying this book. In the second book, some deaths happen in the town, and they realise it's connected to some spirits almost that made an escape when they had to open a portal of sorts in regards to activating the magic in their new grimoires, and it is left like a blanket of magic over the town. And it was this event that killed one of the baddies in the other family, and then they get a knock on the door. Avery gets a knock on the door from a woman whose name escapes me at the moment, saying that the Witches' Council that they've heard rumours about for years does actually exist, and that it is time for the Whitehaven witches to join the council. Because it seems they've been banned from the council and they did not even know about it. And so the second book and the third book look at the Whitehaven witches starting to join in on the council meetings and trying to work out where they have the support and where they don't. And the family that we thought was going to be like the really horrible family from book one, the Havishams, good old Daddy Havisham, who was the really bad one from book one, he's killed. So after thinking that he was going to be a real powerful man of sorts that they really didn't want to get on the wrong side of, who they already had gone on the wrong side of, when he dies, it makes room for them on the council, because it's the Havishams that seem to have this grudge against the rest of the Whitehaven witches. And so the families at the heart of this story, obviously they didn't know about the council, they didn't realise their families had been banned, they didn't realise their coven had been banned until everything all happened, and Daddy Havisham, as I'm calling him, was killed kind of by his own hands, really, because he just was doing things he wasn't supposed to. But yeah, so seeing the families take their rightful place on the council has been quite eye-opening. It's really nice to see a community actually coming together, even though in book 3 the community kind of turns on them, not the community, just more like the leader of the council turns on them. Because when they realise they have an infestation of mermaids, they go to the council and say, "Can you help us?" And the leader of the council says, "No, we don't want anything to do with this." And then our wonderful Whitehaven witches goes on and makes friends with another baddie who they experienced in book 2 and says, "You know what? If you stop killing people, we have a common enemy." And those baddies are the Nephilim? Nephilim? This is a word I've never seen before. I'm sure people who are very interested in, like, magical history and things will probably know. It's the 7 Nephilim. I feel like every single time I say it worse. I'm sure there's people who do know how to pronounce it, but me, no, I'm a bit in the dark there. And they're very powerful, almost spirits that were kind of banished. I think it's like fallen angel type. It probably has a bit of a religious element, because there were religious elements to the books, because there's a point when people are killed in churches and it's connected to these spirits, and there's a bit of ghost hunting in there as well. It feels like a lot of worlds meeting in these books, but it doesn't feel like it's in a bad way. It feels like very much like we are bringing these together because in a way they're all connected. And there's also talks about how even religion has its basis in some magical elements, like the idea of an exorcism. It's all done in Latin, but ultimately an exorcism kind of does have a magical element to it, because it's the idea of you're banishing a bad spirit or soul from somebody else's body. So when I was reading about that, it's just like, of course it has magical and spiritual elements to it. It's like, why did I never think of that before? It's not something that I think that religious people really like to admit to, especially because there's a lot of religious elements that go against the idea of magic, but to me it makes sense that there's a connection there. I feel like this is like a video of complete tangents, but yeah, just seeing it all being kind of brought together, the idea of religion and magic, and the idea that these things can coincide quite well. Even in book 3 we have seen the romance between Avery and Alex getting stronger, but you also see Avery as she could be quite a nervous person. She's not completely confident in her abilities, even though all of them are in a space of learning something new, because they've all just had access to these historical grimoires they knew nothing about, and so they are calling upon their ancestors to help them learn the magic that should have always been there. In my other video I think I compared it to almost like a coming of age story, because it does feel like that, because they are coming into new powers, and it is in book 3 that they realise they can harness the magic that is hovering the town, because even the council says there has been a surge of magic over Whitehaven, and you know, even just the regular folks can feel a different energy in Whitehaven. It was just like, of course they can draw upon that. That's something else that you don't even think of. Yeah, so you're just seeing these families getting stronger and understanding the wonderful history of their ancestors and the magic that they did, and also realising the things that they may have not gotten right, especially as we look deeper into why the grimoires were hidden and what that was protecting, because that's definitely not wrapped up. It was connected to the Favershams. I keep feeling like I'm saying that name weirdly, and there was a uncle who they all thought had died, and it turned out no, actually he took his family and went off. He wanted to be more powerful, but his family were kind of shooting him down, and so I feel like there's still quite a lot to unlock there. I feel like that's not quite wrapped up yet. I feel like there is more to this, with the Favershams being quite a powerful family and obviously have a lot of influence. Now that Daddy Faversham died in the first book, people don't seem to be as scared of them. Now that this patriarch of the family has been taken down, they don't take that power too seriously anymore. So you're seeing like barriers come down, you're just like, wait, no. It's just like, no, it was your dad that had the problem, and now he's gone. We want you to tone it down because we were scared of him, we're not scared of you. But considering the fact that it is pulling in the idea of like ghosts, and there's a team of ghost hunters now that are working with this coven of witches, and I'm just like, I feel like this is going to become more connected as the series goes on. I know about the other different like sides of the stories and stuff, especially with there's like a demon hunter section with some of the other books. I don't know if there is a separate arc for the ghost hunters, but I am here for it. If it is there, or if TJ Green wants to do it, I'm happy to do that. I definitely want to read that. Yeah, so it's just seeing this coven, because they are essentially a coven together. They were brought together by the death of this woman, and the fact that each of their families hid their grimoires, and they realised the point of that was that the families have draw on elements. So you've got like the earth, the water, the fire, and so they've got all these elements that they can draw upon, and it's those elements connected that can put together this spell which has been separated over the grimoires, which was why it was so important for the Favershams to get hold of it. It's essentially, I think the Favershams were trying to keep this secret, and they didn't want the other members of the coven to figure out what was hidden, and that is why they wanted the grimoires so much. And they're just like, no, you're not taking our grimoires, and we're going to figure out why it is that you want these grimoires so much. I still think there's more to it, but they've started off a chain of events by bringing their grimoires together and unlocking this spell that's spread out across them, and releasing a witch that was buried underneath the church. It is so good. I am greatly enjoying this. As I said, I've been reading it on Kindle. It was my dad that read it first and kept telling me, he's been telling me for like a year to read these books, and I've finally gone around to it. Yeah, I am just loving it so much. let's go back to the cover page. So you've got your 3 books, books 1 to 3 of the Whitehaven Witches. So there we are. I'm really glad I've gotten back into the fantasy again, because I went for so long without really reading any fantasy books, and then I kind of getting into the Beaufort books just hit it off again. There was actually a thing of like the cast of characters. So you've got Avery, who's the main one that we've been seeing it through, who owns Happenstance Books, because they've all got like their own businesses. Alex Bonneville, the love interest for Avery, who owns the Wayward Sun pub, where they have a lot of meetings. You've got Reuben Jackson, who owns the Green Lane Nursery. Elspeth Robinson, who is mainly referred to as Elle, and she owns the Silver Bow. You've got Briar Ashworth, that owns the Charming Balms Apothecary. I love that word, apothecary, I think it's a great word. You've got Matthias Newton, who is the DI with the Cornwall Police. And you've got Caspian Faversham, is the CEO of Kernow Shipping. That is the cast of characters. But yeah, Caspian is son Faversham. It is Daddy Faversham that dies. At the meetings, at this point of where we are in the story at the end of book 3, Avery has started to notice a shift in Caspian's behaviour. So after being influenced by his father's animosity towards this coven, Avery notices in the final book, after they've been dealing with these mermaids, it says, when you're reading a fantasy book, the words that come out of your mouth you do wonder about. But yeah, in the 3rd book, they are aware of an issue with mermaids overrunning the town. So I love the fact that you've just got all these different magical creatures. At the end of the 3rd book, Avery realises that Caspian may have softened slightly and almost has a bit of respect for the coven based on what they're going through, because I think Caspian has realised just how awful his father actually was. I feel like I've said nothing and everything. I always do, but when it comes to like these kind of books, there's just so much. I'm very much looking forward to starting book 4. Yeah, there's the Whitehaven Hunters is the spin-off to the Whitehaven Witches. I'm going to click on that and see what it says about the Whitehaven Hunters. As Whitehaven Hunters is the fun-filled spin-off to the Whitehaven Witches series, a feisty female fae warrior, 7 Nephilim, and hunt for the occult. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, Whitehaven Witches, TJ Green, very much enjoying it. So if you like your witches, if you like your history, if you want something to set in Cornwall, because it sounds beautiful. I have been to Cornwall before a couple of times, and yeah, just hearing the descriptions of all the towns and stuff, it just sounds lovely. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you on Wednesday with another video. Stay safe, everybody. Love you all. Goodbye.